there be no honeymoon ending for you?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Cosmic Circus review. My name is Vin. With me, as always, is John. Today, we've also added Red, because today is a very, very, very special episode. Guys, what are we talking about?
We're talking about Severance.
We're talking about Severance.
The very specific procedure that keeps your inner life from your work life completely separate from one another.
Completely separate. I'll be honest, I think Red is the biggest Severance fans I know. And I know a lot of Severance fans, but this guy specifically, I think every time I think of Severance, I think of you, brother. Because you're the one like really hold on. As far as I know, Red has always been the one championing since like day one. Red, he loves this show.
I will battle Red to the death.
So I did not expect this, but today will be a tournament battle, duel to the death. Someone will die by the end of this episode. We will find out who it is. I was not prepared for this. Okay, Severance, Season 2. Hold on. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow. Patreon, it's popping. It's great. Lots of exciting stuff happening. Thank you all for supporting. Please support if you haven't. Okay, Severance, Season 2. Created and showrun by Dan Erickson. Lead director, Ben Stiller. Starring Adam Scott, Zach Cherry, Britt Lower, Tramell, Tillman, John Turturro, Christopher Walken, Patricia Arquette. Cinematography by Jessica Lee Gagné. She's not the only cinematographer, but I think she's like the signature one of the show, right? I also want to mention music by Theodore Shapiro, because the music is awesome in this show.
Yes, it is.
A couple things also. Season 1, if you haven't heard of it, 2022, 14 Emmy nominations. Outstanding drama series, acting for Scott, Turturro, Walken, and Arquette, and it won main title design, musical score. This show is taking the world by storm, and I think Season 2 is even bigger than Season 1 was. Red, let's start with you. What's your history with Severance?
So I'd had an Apple Screeners account for a moment at that time, and I just remember this show just slides into my account. I click on it. I go to Lizzie. I'm like, Miss Lizzie, look, they sent me some show. I'm a big fan of Adam Scott. I really like it. Really like him as an actor. And it's sci-fi. Because at that moment, we were trying to be very, very niche, like very specific in what we were covering. I remember. I'm like, this is definitely falls in that. I mean, we're talking about a procedure where a dude gets a chip implanted in his brain that keeps him from his work life, from his personal life. I mean, that's trippy. Like kind of like a very thriller-esque Westworld in a different sense. Mm-hmm. Like it reminded me of Westworld right from the get-go. So I watched 1, 2, maybe 3 episodes like on Friday or whatever, and I ended up calling in sick to work on Monday so I could finish watching all the screeners. So like within 72 hours, I watched the whole Season 1.
My guy. Great.
Man, and it was just like, it was worth it. It was worth it because the show was so damn good. And then I had to sit there for 2 months. Couldn't say nothing.
Couldn't. 2 months?
But you want to know something really funny? Apparently, no, not apparently. I saw this happen. I found a Severance subreddit. I got on there, and some other guy that also got the season.
No,
it wasn't him. And I apologize to our viewers for this, but this is really funny. Some girl that he had over for the weekend that he was hooking up with went on the subreddit and like started spoiling things, like telling people what the waffle party was, and you know, just no. I think the poster got removed now. So, but it was one of the funniest things I have ever seen in a community. So I was like, hey, it wasn't me. I didn't say nothing. So I wrote out my review. It got posted and everything. And slowly but surely, as soon as that show came out, it just took off. And I mean, like just upward trajectory all the way through. People, what was really fun was having seen the whole first season before everybody, and then reading all these crazy theories, because a lot of people had like the right idea, they were in the right direction, they just didn't have it fully formed, because the show really throws some twists here and there. Right? You know, so like nothing beats that moment when you see the ripped up picture of Gemma and you're like, that's Miss Casey. And that is just one of the best reveals that you could do. It wasn't like, boom, here, you know, like that was just really well done. And then to end the show and cut it off with she's alive, cut to black.
I mean, that's just a great cliffhanger. Yeah,
exactly. And it made for a really fun experience. And then I had to wait 3 damn years to finally see what the hell was going on after the fact. I'm telling y'all, it was the most painful wait of my life. But every time any little thing was happening, like, hey, Severance Season 2 is filming. Hey, they added this person to the cast. I was the first person to post about it on Twitter or on Discord. Like I was on it. And then I remember when, what was it? Brazil's Comic-Con or something like that.
Okay.
That's when we got the first couple looks, the first trailer and stuff. And I'm like, oh man, I've been waiting so long. It's just so good to know that this actually exists, because Season 2 had a couple hangups. There was one moment where like they had to switch showrunners and like the writing team and everything, and people were saying this is a really bad sign. And I'm like,
it was a kind of complicated production history. Yeah.
There, and then you had the writers and the actor strike, which put a big pause on everything. So that really sucked. But I was like, hey, it's coming. I know they want to get it out. I know Ben Stiller really cares about this, and it finally released. And man, I was just so happy to get to see it and write about it again. God, because I just love it so much.
All right, John, what's your story?
I mean, I was kidding earlier. He's got me.
He surrenders.
He's got me beat. But I came in like around the time that the buzz started starting, and like him, I had the screeners in my Apple, and there's a funny thing about Apple. They'll just drop stuff on you sometimes.
They won't even tell you.
They won't even tell you, and you'll just go in there. All of a sudden, you just got this huge library of content.
Yep.
And I logged in there after hearing about it and watched it, and kind of like Red, I started one, then I started another, then another, and then the dance party happens.
Oh yeah.
And I just couldn't stop. Yeah. The dance party, I think, is like the most iconic thing ever. Milkshake stole the season on that for me.
He steals the show almost. Yeah. He's so good.
But yeah, that's my history. I think it's a great show. It's very addicting, clever, and all the things that has been said about it. So
I came to this much later than you guys. I had heard the buzz, especially from Red, because John, I didn't even know you at the time. But I finally got around to it 2023, and it was I know, right? And it was at a time where I didn't have a lot of work, and I was just like, I need something to watch. And I remember I binged all of Better Call Saul. I rewatched Breaking Bad, Superman and Lois, and I'm like, I need something new, something original, something fresh. And I was like, okay, let me try the Severance show. And I think I finished it. I think it was like Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning. Something like that. Like I was looking through my old text with my friends, and it was going so fast. I was like, episode 2, I think this. Episode 7, I think this. Like I was going so fast. I didn't even have time to text my friends between it. That's how fast I was. And at first, I was a little upset with the show because I love something like Office Space, which is very traditional. I don't know. Have you guys seen that comedy from the 90s?
Of course I have.
Yeah.
About 15 times.
I literally thought I was expecting something like that. Like, oh, it's cute. So they're at work, they're at home, and it's Adam Scott. It'll be a comedy about work-life balance.
Not even a little bit.
It took me a little bit of time to accept the show for what it is. And then I was like, oh, this is weird. This is different. And like all these twists and turns. And by the time we finished the first season, I was locked in. I didn't like it as much as everyone else, but I still really enjoyed it. And I couldn't stop watching. How did you guys feel about season 2? Just like general overall thoughts, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Well, first thing is you can read my review about it so you can know what I thought. But the lowdown is I'm really glad to be back in it because there was a lot of things that got answered, like who created the severance process. Oh, also, before we continue, I'm going to warn y'all, heavy spoilers.
Everything. Today, the season 2 finale is out. This is all public knowledge. It's on Wikipedia.
Yep.
Okay.
I say that now so I can say it because, Miss Cobell, Harmony Cobell, played by Patricia Arquette, who did an amazing job in both seasons. Well, she did it. That was a big reveal, and that she held the patent and that, the Egan's took it from her. That was just an incredible scene, which is funny going back and seeing how people really hated the episode of hers, which was one of my favorites, oddly enough.
Really? I'm also not a fan of 8. So 8. I'm interested. I'm interested to talk to you more.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm not a fan of it either.
I might be the only person that liked it, but basically there was just a lot in there to like because it gave a lot of backstory. I mean, we're looking at all these people that are now addicts, a town that's been ruined by, Lumon coming in and then coming out of there and the ramifications of what these mega corporations can do. I mean, it's also reflective of real life too, because we see this happen. You go to Michigan, there's a bunch of places that used to have big factories making cars. There's nothing there now. Ghost towns almost.
John, what were your overall thoughts of the season? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Well, before I get into my thoughts, I got a bone to pick with our boss, Lizzie. I'm just gonna say it, okay? I gotta talk about this. Then, Red, I think we worked pretty hard, don't you think? We worked pretty hard, correct?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, with all that we do, with all the work that we do, with all the things that we bring to the table, why on earth have we not been gifted the gift of choreography and merriment?
I would definitely take that. I would love to see somebody bust it down. I don't know who would be doing the dancing, but somebody. I don't think any of us can move as smooth.
Exclusively on Patreon.
Lizzie,
that would be awesome.
I don't want pay anymore. I want choreography and merriment. Okay? That's all I'm saying.
With the 200-piece band?
Yes. Dude, I think it is 3/4 of a great season.
Mhm.
It builds on the mythology
Mhm.
very organically.
Mhm.
The first 7 episodes, I think, are such powerful character building and story and complexity.
Mhm.
There's one episode involving Gemma
Mhm.
that I was so
The
emotionally
masterpiece.
devastated,
Yeah.
throughout. I think the peak was the Irving episode for me. In the middle where Irving just figures out that Helen uh,
Mhm.
that she's not who she is, and that one moment where he says, "Yeah, Seth, yeah," and reveals who she is.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the best character moments of the entire show. I
Mhm.
really hope Irving is coming back. And then it got to around the episode that a lot of people have issues with. There were 2 episodes towards the finale where I almost gave up hope.
Mhm.
And just when I thought I was falling off,
Mhm.
that season finale,
Mhm.
woo, guys,
Mhm.
um, I am blown away by it.
Mhm.
I'm just mesmerized. I think it's beautiful storytelling. It's tragic and like there's so much complexity and character. It's one of the most I gotta explain it. It's one of the most devastating endings to a season that I've seen in a while, and I wouldn't end it any other way. It
Mhm.
made so much sense for the characters, and I don't know where they go from here. I have no idea.
Mhm.
For
But
me,
that's a great kind of feeling, right? When they write
yeah,
themselves into a corner, and then you have to see what's the magic trick. How do they get out? Yeah.
yeah, it's just crazy good. That moment where he gets Gemma out the door and he's looking between his life as Annie
Mhm.
and her outside
Mhm.
and Gemma's face as he's turning away.
Mhm.
I mean, my heart,
Yeah.
it was just, there's so much pain and conflicting feelings about it all at the same time. It's like you're almost happy for them, but
Mhm.
you're also feeling terrible for Gemma.
Mhm.
And my God, man, Gemma keeps getting the worst of anybody in the
It's
entire
rough.
show.
It's rough. Yeah.
The entire
I think
show.
it's so brilliantly framed how he's here, and then you have Gemma on this part of the camera, and then Helly all the way at the other side. Just the way it's
Yeah.
framed, and he's in the middle, and he's looking between them. It's so classically done. She's in the darkness, Helly's in the light, and he's at the door. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant ending. Them running down the hallway and just,
It
um,
instantly feels iconic, right?
it's
Yeah.
very iconic.
It's
And
so
I'm
memorable. Mhm.
still emotionally devastated by it. I think it's a great finale and one of the best shows of the year. It's going to be one of the best shows of the year, I believe.
Yes.
I think my opinion is basically echo John's. I thought like leading up to episode 7, I was like, I don't exactly know what's going on with the story, with the mystery, and I don't care. Like after season 1, I learned to trust the show, especially season 2. I felt it had so much confidence. Like they had a strong ending in mind, and I felt it had so much confidence. And I was like, I don't exactly understand ABCD, but this is so visually amazing. The music is so good. The sound design is so good. The cinematography is so good. The way the camera's moving, the way that just the way they're exploring new ways to make this interesting. I was like, I'm down for the ride. I don't know where we're going, but I know that you're taking me somewhere. So let's go. It builds to episode 7, which I think is the best episode of the whole series. I think episode 7 is an absolute masterpiece. I loved episode 7. And it's so visual, it's so surreal, it's going back and forth between all these different memories, all these transitions. I'm raving about episode 7. Like, if you think of a show like Barry, I could tell you, season 2, episode 5, Ronnie Lily. And for this, I think I'm going to say season 2, episode 7. Like, if you watch one episode of Severance, that's the episode to watch, in my opinion. You know, I think I just loved it. And then episode 8, I didn't like it. Episode 9, I don't know. And then this finale.
Yeah, 8 and 9
Yeah,
are kind of a slog. They're both
yeah.
kind of a slog.
But then we get to this finale. And in my opinion, watching this finale, it feels like they started here and they worked backwards because everything ties together so well in this finale. It wraps up everything. It even feels like it's an entire like season of story all in one episode even. So I feel like they might have started here and they said, okay, now how do we build to this moment? And like John said, I think it almost feels like it could have been a series finale. The way they're wrapping up so many storylines, the way they're tying so many things together.
It does. It
And,
feels
and that
like the end.
and that's what makes the twist at the end hurt even more because it's like, oh, we're closing all the doors. We're wrapping everything up. They didn't even announce season 3 until today. So it feels like, oh, this could have been the end of the show. And then Mark turns around and you're like, oh God, we have one more season.
Oh man.
Well, how about this? Red, do you think are we getting one more season or two? Season 3,
Two.
season 4, or just season 3? What do you think?
Two more. The show's way too popular for them. Just said, let's just make this now.
Yeah.
One thing I do and don't like about Apple is that, because this is also happening with Ted Lasso, they're making a 4th season. Season 3 wrapped it up real nicely, at least to me. And they're going back because they want to rely on something they know is a big popular thing. I mean, as of now, Severance is their most viewed series. You don't just drop the ball on that. That's Netflix. That's Netflix stuff, not Apple. Apple, but they also put in a lot of quality in the things that they think are going to do well.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think they already know where they want the story to end. They're just trying to figure out how they want to get there. And no one says we have to have a long season. I mean, first season was 8 or 9 episodes. This one was 10. You could do next season with 8, keep it shorter, I guess, and then wrap it up with a half season, like 5 or 6 episodes in season 4. Because at the same time, you have to consider you have all these actors and they're pretty busy doing other stuff and they're going to start picking up. I mean, Tramell Tillman already has a gig on the next Mission Impossible film. It's funny, years ago, I literally mean years ago, I kept saying, man, Tramell Tillman would be a great Kang. And then there was actually a rumor that came out saying that he might play Kang in a one-off, but that's neither here nor there. But I mean, these people are going to get recognized because they're doing incredible work.
I remember when the show started and there was Zach Cherry. And I think I only knew Zach Cherry from, I think, Spider-Man Homecoming. Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. So you have Adam Scott and you have some random guy from Spider-Man Homecoming. This is just like whoever Apple can get. They didn't put a lot of effort or care. And now each of these actors is like feels like a megastar on the show. And they each have so much depth and complexity. And you see so much range from each of the actors too. John, you know what I mean, right?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's every performer is like just firing on all cylinders in this show. Everyone to the smallest character. Like, I can't remember his name, but even that one bad guy who's like in charge of Gemma, they introduced him just for one episode.
Dr. Maurer?
And it feels like he's been here the whole time. Whole time. And it's so rich in writing and forming. They're doing amazing work. At one time the Bear was like the one that was going to sweep all the awards every year.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that like next year it's just going to be a complete sweep for Apple for this show. I genuinely believe that.
I think the Bear is an interesting comparison because also the Bear basically should have stopped at 3 seasons, but then they extended season 3 into season 4. And I kind of feel the same about Succession. John, I don't know if we ever talked about it or not, but I feel like season 3 in Succession basically should have been, it was extended into 4, but basically should have been one final season. And I wonder if they're going to do that with Severance also, that we have a 3-part story, but because, like Red said, because of the popularity, now they're going to extend it possibly to a 4th. And I wonder if that works for or against it.
That's a good question.
But Red, you have so much confidence, right?
I mean, yeah, and they have a great writing team. They have the whole creative team is incredible. Like I said earlier, you don't have to do longer episodes or longer seasons. I mean, if you just say, hey, we're going to do 6 this one and then another 6 here later on, just to keep giving you content in one form or shape way, why not? What's wrong with that? As long as you're not just drowning me with a bunch of extra stuff that I don't really care about. Like, I liked it, but no one liked that Harmony Cobell episode, but I thought that was good to the world building. But as long as you're not just injecting 3 episodes of that into the season, then we're good.
Okay.
I think the difference between like this and the Bear is that the Bear's not as like he doesn't have as many unanswered questions as Severance does. Like even now that they're wrapping up, there's still a ton of things that we don't know about the world. Like a ton of things. With the Bear, there's so many character storylines that could have concluded a long time ago, which probably needed to conclude like at least a couple of seasons ago. And they kind of drag it out further. This, there's so much secrecy still behind, like, I mean, who is the Keanu Reeves character? Like, how long has this been around? Like, there's so many things.
Where are they? That's one of the biggest questions people keep asking, because if you look, there's a bunch of letters on Mark's desk or table at home, and it shows, what's the name? I guess they name it Kier, right? Where he lives, or I don't remember right now. But then it's comma PE. That's not any actual state.
Great.
Yeah. Which my guess has always been province of Egan. That's the best guess I have.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah, I am curious because season two, from what I remember, season two expanded it more. We started seeing more of the outer world, which is a little bit interesting, and I'm really curious to see where does it go from here. Just for example, last we saw Irving, he was on that train going
Yes.
out, right? And then
Yes.
they kind of didn't come back to that. So
Nope.
that'll be such an interesting place to start season three. But just seeing what is this outer world and like is the Severance, is this like a bubble just in this town? Is it across the world? What is the society
Yeah.
like? How is
Well,
it
we went to
different?
the that town that Cobell's from. I mean, we spent time over there. There's something
Right.
there, and she drove out for quite a bit to get out there.
Yeah, I think that the potential of that is really interesting. Expanding further, further, further. And I'm also curious to see what is the time period of this because
Yeah.
it seems futuristic, but at the same time, everything seems also old fashioned. So
Well,
is this like an
they mentioned that there's something that got brought up in an interview. The sense or the reason why they use such outdated looking equipment is for security reasons because it makes it easier or makes it harder for them to hack or to pass along that info outside of the building.
but even when they're in the outside world, a lot of those cars look really old fashioned too,
That
right?
is true. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
Well, and, and we also still don't even really fully understand reintegration in the
yeah.
show. Like, I mean, we're kind of getting small little flavors of it,
Hmm.
but we're not. I don't think we fully understand what's going to happen whenever any mark and the outing mark do finally collide into one.
Hmm.
And that's kind of been my curiosity too. Is like what happens whenever both personalities do reconnect. Like, how does that work? What does that mean for the character? And how does he behave as a new
Hmm.
hybrid persona?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping
Um,
to see that this season because they spent so much time building that storyline. It's
yeah,
interesting that we got them arguing, but do you feel satisfied with where we left that, or do you want to see the reintegration at the beginning of three?
I don't think we're going to get it at the beginning of three, but I do want to see it in its totality eventually, and I do think we will get there eventually.
Mhm.
I do got a question for y'all. What do you think is going on with Hal and Egan and Mark? I don't mean like the any
Mhm.
version of her. I'm talking about like Hallie. Talking about Hallie whenever she's outside and when she's trying to pretend to be,
Mhm.
her. I know she was doing it to kind of get information, but at the same time, I'm wondering if y'all agree that there might have been kind of like the character and his wife. They had that conflict with him at home and a version of him at work. If there's some kind of jealousy that she's not the version inside of that work that she is outside. Does that make
I
sense?
Yeah, I'll answer briefly, and then I want to pass it to Red. But I think she's un. My impression is that I think she's unhappy with her life, and I think she's a bit envious. And I'm even curious if we might see her make like the Audi Helena make a sacrifice so that any Helly can live a peaceful life,
That's what I'm
something like that.
wondering
Yeah,
too. But it kind
or
of seems like it
or if
kind
they
of
do,
seems. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go
I was
on.
gonna say, or if they do some kind of reintegration themselves. But I think we end the show without Audi Helly, and I think she's happier for that. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
I just strongly disagree because, like I said, Audi Helly is very selfish. She only cares about furthering herself and the company because she still serves Kier, even going so far as to be the first one to sleep with Mark. Because remember, Audi Helly or Helena sleeps with Mark before any Helly does
Hmm. Hmm.
when they're on that, excursion out in the woods. And I feel like that was like a way like to, gotcha at her innie. At the same time, of course, she was doing that to make Mark vulnerable and take advantage of the situation. But it's interesting that she even did that to begin with. I mean, only a very selfish person would do that because she's not the one attracted to Mark. It's any Helly that's attracted to Mark, but she still went so far as to go to sleep with the guy.
Hmm.
the only the only part of it that gives me like a little bit of pause is that she seeks him out at a diner,
Mhm.
Hmm.
like unprovoked. There was no like reason for
Hmm.
her to go and see him at the diner, and I keep coming back to that moment because it almost feels like she seems curious if there was a connection there.
Yeah.
I think
You know
so.
what I'm saying? That's kind of like that was my read on the diner scene. Now, of course, it's very difficult to understand her motives throughout the show, but that part of it right there always made me go,
Hmm.
like why go to the diner and talk to him?
Hmm. For sure. I really wonder where they're where they're going with all this and Helly's role within the corporation. But I really think she'll be instrumental. Like I said, maybe like a sacrifice or something. What do you think about what's going on with Dylan?
You talking about with his wife and all that?
Yeah, this kind of like love triangle thing. I don't know if this was the most interesting part of the season, but I don't know. It's something going on. And
Well, I think that's what made me think about the Helly thing, because it kind of seems like there's a theme. There's a theme going on throughout the show where everybody, including Christopher Walken's character, every one of them seem to be envious of the life.
Oh, that's great.
Of the ending.
Wow, that's good.
Every one of them, Christopher Walken, Helly,
except Mark. Mark,
yeah.
Oh, it's interesting.
Except Mark, and that's it.
Can I share an interesting theory with you guys? A friend of mine suggested that what if Helly is pregnant, but they don't know which one's the mother?
I like that.
I like
great,
that.
right? And I just wonder what the ramifications of that could be. So that would be a great mystery box for season 3, right?
Yeah.
Was there anything? Yeah, you going?
I was saying, because there is a very high chance that she's pregnant. There is a good chance that she could be, because they went at it twice. I mean, I said it politely.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was something that was in the back of my mind. I'm like, man, how painful would it be that she got pregnant after everything that Gemma went through, and it took them a lot of effort to get pregnant, and then afterwards she lost the baby to begin with, and then boom, you got this Egan over here who gets the baby from a random hookup, one of 2 hookups. That is devastating.
Yeah, and that also makes that puts Gemma in a very poor, like John was saying, poor Gemma. It puts her in a very awkward place and puts Outie Mark in a very awkward place. Oh boy.
I gotta be honest, guys. I feel bad for Gemma more than anybody in the entire show.
For sure. Yeah.
That poor woman keeps getting just the worst of every situation in the show.
I mean, not to mention episode 7, which is a whole montage of Gemma losing.
The one thing I hope in the next season is that she somehow gets some sort of win. I know y'all were talking about the pregnancy aspect, but man, I think you're only going to be able to keep giving that character so much tragedy before it becomes too much.
That is true.
And that's the only thing I'm kind of concerned about. If she needs some sort of redemption.
But I'm excited for us to see her reunite with Devin, because Devin cared about her too.
Yeah. I was about to say, I want to see more of Gemma herself, not just Gemma and Mark, but who is Gemma as a person? Like, what is her story, life, everything, before Mark, outside of Mark?
Can we talk about my favorite character of this season? I really got to talk about my favorite character.
The goat.
So there's a child in this season.
Oh, Miss Wong.
Oh my gosh.
She was definitely a highlight for me. I think I mentioned it in my review how impressed and delighted I was to have someone like that, because that is such a weirdly different dynamic. Because you have Milchick over there using owns like 3 thesaurus and dictionaries with the words he uses on a daily basis, and then you've got a young girl who's 13, 14. But even
go ahead, Britt. I'm sorry.
I still find it funny, that joke is like, why are you so young? Because of when I was born. I don't know why, but just the way she said it was so funny.
My favorite conversation in the entire season is the where he's like, I'm just so glad I got 4 new friends. And she's like, that's great, Mark, but I'm your supervisor, not your friend. And she just stares. And he goes, I have 3 new friends.
This show can be so funny sometimes without even attempting to be. It just will be.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I love about the show. Like, you'll have some really tense moments, but then you'll just have some quick little 5-second moment happen. You're like, man, that was really funny. And then you go back to some really creepy or crazy stuff afterwards.
I think that's one of the most interesting and most appealing parts of the show is how many different flavors it has, how many different tones and colors it plays with, how many strange, weird things it does. You never know what's going to come next, right?
Hey, look at all that stuff with the goat. God, that was so weird.
Yeah.
I saw somebody post a really good meme. They're like, so, hey, what do I, they're like a little skit. They're like, hey, so what do I do down there? What? Well, the details of your life as in your private. But I come home smell like goat shit every day, so I'm dealing with goats. So what am I doing down there?
Oh,
Can we talk about some of the people that got added in on season 2? Because we started with
sure,
Miss Wong.
sure.
So
Sure,
a couple like shout out to John Noble as husband to
Fields.
that was great. Great actor. Fun little moment with him. And then the other one, probably the standout though, is Gwendolyn Christie. God, she was awesome. And it's kind of crazy how twice now I've seen her in a season finale where she has a big fight against a dude and wins, because she did the same thing in Game of Thrones. But man, she was really tense when, like, the first moment they introduce her, you're just like, whoa, I would not want to mess with her. And then they prove it to you in the season finale when she starts whooping ass. You're like, definitely would never mess with her. And I was like, what are they going to do with these goats, man? And then they showed us, and I'm like, so it's definitely a cult, you know?
Yeah. Just going back to that, in this finale, when she's having her fight, I'm like, oh, it's Brienne again, Brienne of Tarth. I was getting like flashbacks to Game of Thrones. But I agree for sure. Like, seeing the goats come back, because I noticed during this finale, I was like, wow, they're like paying off every single episode, pretty much. Everything they set up is paying off. It's all like crossing over, because it's almost like standalone episodes for the most part leading up to this. And this is like tying everything together. That's why I feel like this might have been the starting point. They started here and worked backwards, maybe. And that's how everything builds up to this so well, so satisfyingly, I think. John, were you satisfied with the goats?
I honestly, by that point, the goats were like the least of my like thoughts at that point. I mean, it already felt like a cult.
Yeah.
To me, like, just like the way the whole thing started, like with that video at the beginning of the season. So the goat part didn't really surprise me too much. It did surprise me how violent that finale was.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, we're approaching like the raid right here with like with the violence, and it kept going.
During that fight, I was like, I really wanted to see the blood stain the white walls so that the white walls would turn red, because I thought that would be an awesome visual. All these perfect white walls covered in blood, but then they kind of do that anyway, right? By the end of the episode.
Well, what they do with the lighting, which is like, it's very evocative. The whole thing is very evocative. And so by that point, like I said, there was so much visual stimulation. The goat was the least of my my thoughts. But it was the whole thing was brilliant though. I loved every bit of it. The other thing I was gonna address was the do we want to discuss our issues with the Cobell plot?
What plot?
With her being the inventor of this whole thing.
That's my criticism. I don't know what her plot exactly was this season. There is a Cobell plot, but I'm not quite sure what it is or why it matters.
I'd say what it matters is that Mark reintegrated with the help of Ragabi, right, who did it for Petey in season 1. And it was kind of dangerous because Petey ended up dying there at the end from it. So at some point, Devin panics and calls, but this was one thing I also did find weird, that Devin calls the woman who pretended to be her, what was it?
Midwife?
Not midwife, lactation consultant expert.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Remember that she pretended to be all that and everything? So anyways,
very strange.
It was very strange. And for her to say, I'm going to call her, and Ragabi's like, you do that, I'm out the door. Without Devin knowing that, without us as audience either knowing that Cobell was the inventor of the severance procedure. I mean, it kind of, that was one of those like Deus Ex
it's awkward
moments. Because like, okay, so somebody who can help you with this isn't enough. You're going to go to the person who created it, but you don't know that. I don't know that. Nobody here in the room knows that. It just happens to play out that way. Of course, Cobell has always been really intelligent. I mean, it's been shown throughout, so it's not surprising to me that it was her. But they did that to show that she would be the person most familiar with Severance, so that's why they would call upon her to get assistance. And obviously, she still had like a little bit of pull on Lumon, because even though everything that happened in season 1, she still managed to get that meeting with the board and with Helena. So she's still a force to be reckoned with. I don't know about her moving forward. Probably not. I can't see where she would be utilized unless she were to be the person to come out and testify against them and reveal everything that Lumon's been doing. If that's something they even decide to do there at the end.
Like a whistleblower. Yeah.
Essentially, because she could say, look, I've got the patents. This is what they're really doing. I've got the proof.
All right, John?
So my main issue with it is that it's way less interesting than the Severance program being this like very complex thing that a lot of people came up with, or that you don't really know like how it came about. It was just kind of a thing that this company made. And I feel like it feels shoehorned to give this actress more of a role to be in the show when she was almost kind of like not a factor anymore. And I just don't think it's very interesting to make her the inventor. It didn't really feel that was the one little subplot that I was like, I don't know if I care for this. I don't know if I care for that part of it. Does it destroy everything? No, I don't think it destroys it all. But I think it is just the one area where I felt like the show is so great at building these amazing dynamics and these amazing character plots and these amazing rich details, and then they just give Severance, the entire existence of Severance, to the most, I guess, like almost inconsequential character of the show. That's the way I felt about it.
I disagree because there's one strong thing about it, though. It's obviously, this is probably the deal she worked out. She gave them the patent or gave them proprietary ownership over it, but in exchange, she wanted to be in charge of the severed floor, and that's why she was in charge in season 1 until she blew it up herself. She's the one that ruined her own opportunity to keep doing so.
Right.
Just something to observe and think about. Something, because I've thought about it. I'm like, man, she really gave up a insane patent. That's a like crazy piece of technology to just hand over to somebody else. And I'm like, and that has to make sense to us why she was in charge in season 1, because there must have been some sort of swap. I'll give you this, but I get to be in charge. I'm the manager. I want to be the one observing all this and how it works.
Yeah, I see what Red's saying, and that's how the episode was written. But I agree with John that why was it written this way? Why not give it to a new character? This world could be so big. We could have so many weird, interesting new characters join the show. Why do we need to give it to this one character?
That's kind of how it makes the world feel smaller. That's the way that's my only complaint with it, is that it makes it feel smaller. It's kind of like Star Wars, where they just keep going back to Luke. It's like, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, Luke is great. The Skywalkers are great. Let's go other places. I want to see everything.
I can see that.
But that's my only cheap complaint.
Did you guys have any other criticisms of the season?
No, that's pretty much it for me.
I mean, I do think episode to episode, it's not very plot driven. It's every episode's like an experience. And I know for some people that they've struggled with that. They're like, I don't know what's happening with the show. And they really struggled with that. For me, I just embraced it. I'm like, I trust the show. The show has a lot of confidence. Give me something cool every week. And I was fine with that. But I know some people struggle. They're like, I don't understand the ABCD of this. I don't understand where we're going or how everything's going to connect.
I get it, though, because here's the thing. I have the one advantage of I could sit down and watch all the episodes in one go. So I didn't have to wait 9 weeks to figure out what the hell's going on. I figured it out in 96 hours. Fun fact, for season 2, they switched it up. So remember that little story I told you earlier about somebody spoiling some of the episodes? This is what they did this time around. They gave me 1 through 6. And they said, once you're done watching them, let us know. And we're going to send you the last 4. You only have 48 hours to watch them. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
That's really interesting. I've never heard of that. Wow.
And getting it to work, like it wasn't like, oh, let me just go on Apple Screeners and it's there for 48 hours. I had to go through a different platform, make a new account, and I can only watch it within the browser. Like Apple Screeners, one thing I love about Apple, and I'm going to shout them out for this, is that Apple has a wonderful Apple Screeners app on the Apple TV. I bought the TV because a bunch of other screener apps are on there as well. It makes my life a lot easier rather than having to sit at my desk right here. My TV is right behind me. There's an Apple TV connected to it. It makes it great. So when it came to those last 4 episodes, I had to either watch it on this computer where I'm talking right now or on my MacBook in bed. So, which sucks because I have a great sound bar. I've got a great setup specifically made for this. So for those last 4 episodes, I had to sit down on a computer. So the screen I'm looking at right now as I'm recording this is a 32-inch monitor, which is decently sized. But when I wasn't on that, I was on my 14-inch MacBook Pro. And like, imagine watching that finale on this. You're kind of like, this sucks. But I understand why, because they didn't want all these secrets to get out. And they were like, all right, the moment we send you this link, not the moment you click on it, the moment this email arrives in your inbox, countdown begins. So I watched all 4 of them in one go. Then I woke up the next morning and watched 2 more episodes. Then I went to work, came back, watched the last 2 episodes. And then as I'm writing my review, I'm rewatching the finale one more time because I knew I'm 3 months out before I can see it again.
I'm imagining this like a Mission Impossible episode.
Yeah, pretty much. So
I also want to add, we are not sponsored by Apple.
No. Well,
that was a wonderful commercial, but we're not.
If y'all want to sponsor me any day of the week, I'll get it tattooed. I don't do tattoos, but I'll get it just for y'all. But I understand because it's so difficult when you have to sit there. I convinced one of my friends, Steven, to watch this, and he he rushed through season 1 so he could start watching season 2 as it came out. And every single week, Red, what the hell, man? What is going on? And he would write all his theories, and I'm like, I'm not going to answer them. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to spoil it for you, because when you actually watch it, you're going to be so much more pleased that you thought about it rather than getting it spoiled. So, like, once again, 3 years ago, and then this year, sitting here watching people come up with these theories and things and can't talk about it is painful. But I understand where they're coming from when you're like, I don't know what the end goal is. Well, I sure did, because I saw it all over 1 week. So the show can be a little tough, especially when you have to consume it in a week-by-week basis. But that was the one advantage. Is I'm like, okay, I got my answers pretty quickly.
John?
I gotta say, I cannot imagine watching this finale months ago. I'm like, I can't believe you've been sitting on that finale for that long.
I watched it the week of Christmas. That's how long ago I saw it. I saw it right before Christmas week. Like, I want to say the 22nd, 23rd, somewhere around that time.
I remember, because I remember you posting about it, and I was like, I want to know everything, but I won't ask.
I can't.
And I remember.
Oh, another fun thing. You know how, like, on screeners they send you a do not reveal thing?
Yeah.
For episode 10, it just said, say nothing. Episode 9, like don't mention the conversation between Mark, Audi, and Annie. In episode 10, it said, don't reveal anything from this episode. I'm like, okay,
great, perfect.
If you say so.
Perfect.
Amazing.
And I kept my mouth shut. It was hard. Y'all don't understand how hard it was. There was nobody I could talk to about this because nobody had seen it.
That's what I'm saying.
It's so hard getting television shows early. Oh, the pain of getting TV early.
No, the pain is not being able to discuss it.
Yeah.
I won't ever complain about getting them. It's the fact that I couldn't say nothing this whole time because I'm like, because I wanted to mention something earlier, didn't get the chance to, but the production designer said that there's a lot of moments in the show when you see the color red. And those are the moments that best exemplify love. And if you think back, that finale, they're running through a red and white hallway. So I just thought that was an interesting thing, how it wasn't just red altogether. It was like a flash of red. Flashes. I don't know if that symbolism is that, like, it's maybe a back and forth between Innie and Audi Mark, but that was my interpretation of it. And I thought it was really fascinating, just the visuals of it. I mean, the one thing that makes this show so awesome is how good it looks. You rarely can you say, yeah, that looked bad. I can't think of a moment. I mean, everything, the set themselves, the way they're built, the colors they utilize in each thing. Even when they went outside, maybe it was a little dull, but that's supposed to be part of it, that Mark's life is so dull outside of Lumon that his house even shows that. But there was one specific moment, I want to say episode 6, 7, that they have that zoom out where they're going from the room where they're looking at Gemma and they're going through all the wires and everything. That was not CGI. That was actually shot. And man, bravo to them, because that was the director's debut.
That's right. The cinematographer as her directorial debut. And there's so many, the transitions were so amazing. 7 is a masterpiece.
Yes.
It's my favorite episode.
Yes.
John, what were you saying?
I just said, oh, wow.
Earlier. Earlier, I thought you wanted to add something.
Did you all ever see, like, it was right after the Irving episode. Did y'all see the breakdown of the elevator queue for that sequence? Okay, so there's a motif or like just like a common cue where when they go up and down the elevator, it goes bing, and like they change personalities.
Yeah.
Well, and this is like how brilliant the technical details are in Severance. Whenever he's holding Howie underwater and he knows it's not her.
Yeah.
It does the same thing. When she's underwater, you can see the camera.
Yes.
Do the same thing it does in the elevator to zoom out and the ping, like as she turns back into the character. It's the small details that just make this entire show great.
Yeah. They also do that in the cabin, and when Mark is walking out and he's switching to the other Mark. It's part of the language of the show that we know, but also the performances are so good that even if they don't do that, I think we could probably still tell, because the performances, they performed them like two completely different characters, right? Especially with Mark. Adam Scott, he's incredible as this. And I came to thinking, he's just a Parks and Rec guy. Whatever. But this is...
Have you seen the Parks and Rec joke where he basically mentions he wants to be severed in Parks and Rec?
I think it's like a fan edit, right?
He makes a comment. He's like, "What if we could separate our work life from our personal life?" And then they switch over and show a clip from Severance, and I'm like, "My God, that was 10 years ago," and he called it.
Oh man.
One thing I do really, really want to highlight. There are some really cool visuals in the show, but think about the opening to season 2. with the camera work as he's running and his head shifts and everything. That was one of the first things they did of him running down that hallway, and it was just incredibly put together. When they showed, because I think Ben Stiller posted a behind the scenes, like just a production photo, and
the first shot,
yeah, dude, that rig they had, all the work it took him to get that, man, it really did a great job of getting you just in the zone, like with the mental of Mark, like, oh my God, what is going on? I need to run and figure it out.
Yeah, I want to say two things. One, real quick, I love how the finale mirrors the first episode with Mark running around the office.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that parallel. And second thing, I love Ben Stiller as a director, and I've been so fascinated. Like, if you watch his interviews, watch him talking about the show, it's the same like Night at the Museum Zoolander guy. But here he is showing like it's a completely different brain. Like, he has been severed. This is some other Ben Stiller. It's incredible seeing what's in his mind, how much he's learned, and how interested he is in exploring all this technology and making something so interesting and unique. And real people hurt. Yeah.
Have you ever seen The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
No, I missed it. I really wanted to see it.
Give it a watch. It's not like an incredible movie or anything, but you can see where a little bit of that kind of carries over and influences Severance. I mean, it's a much more lighthearted film. Like, well, it is a lighthearted film, but it's still something. If you're enjoying Severance, listeners, give the movie a shot. It came out in 2013. It's just a story about him going to discover himself, and it just shows the range that Ben Stiller has. And I think that's what also helped him gear up to do such incredible work on Severance.
He also had a mini series on Showtime. I can't remember the name of it, but I heard it was incredible.
Let me look it up.
Yeah, but it's really good.
I'm looking at this right now. Walter Mitty starred Adam Scott also. I didn't know that.
Well, he wasn't the main actor, but like he was
in it. Yeah,
he's in it. Yeah, and I didn't know Ben Stiller directed that too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was directing and starred in it. But that's what I'm saying. I think part of that work he did there really just got him going on it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Did y'all find that show though? It's kind of a long title from Showtime.
Escape at Dannemora.
That's it right there. That's it. Yeah. I've heard it's great. I've heard that was like a precursor to Severance, where like he made a miniseries that was very captivating. But
Patricia Arquette is in that.
So
I think if you go through Ben Stiller's filmography, you'll find all the little infinity stones that he put together to make Severance. This is where he found Adam Scott. This is where he found Patricia Arquette. And you just go through and he'll assemble the infinity gauntlet of Severance. Man, just seeing his career, because we've all grown up with him, and just seeing him develop too, it's incredible. It's like Barry seeing like what's his
Bill
name?
Hader?
Thank you. Seeing what Bill Hader's done after SNL, right?
I'm old enough to remember when Ben Stiller made one of his first directing decisions to direct The Cable Guy.
I love The Cable Guy. Yes.
I do too.
Oh, that's right. He did do that one.
Yep, I love The Cable Guy. I love it.
I think I remember the name, but I think I was too young at the time. I don't know.
It's got Jim Carrey and Matthew Broderick. It's a creepy movie at the end, but it's interesting. You should watch it.
That's all I am.
He directed Zoolander?
Yeah.
Yes. He directed Zoolander, Tropic Thunder. He's directed a lot of films.
Wow. Like, I knew he was in that, but I didn't know he directed too. Wow.
Since we're talking about Ben Stiller, have y'all ever heard about that theory that his character from Heavyweights is the one that's also in Dodgeball?
No.
Have you ever seen Heavyweights?
No, this is going too.
Oh man. Oh, we'll leave it alone. But that's something. It's hilarious. But I can see where like Ben Stiller just has this like running thing where he's like, I'm going to keep things connected, even if I don't intend to, just over time, and how he brings all these people forward.
Do you think Ben Stiller will ever give himself a role in this show?
That's a great question. I would hope I thought he did. Well, I think it's season one he voiced something.
That doesn't count. Something.
Okay.
Something
Actually showing up.
Yeah.
No, I think he's having way too much fun behind the camera to get in front of it for this case, because I think he knows he's got such a great cast and everything going on that he doesn't want to disturb that.
I don't think he wants to either, and according to the things I know about him, his personal life got affected for a while with with his family and stuff like that, and apparently that's been reconciled, and he's enjoying being kind of like a family man. So I don't think he wants to get too involved with the in front of camera like he used to.
So it really is a severance separating these two sides of his life.
I think that's what drew him to the material. Yeah.
I want to know something funny. I've never seen Britt lower in anything before this, but then I'm like, wait, yes, I have. She was in an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh,
And that's like
wow.
the only, I know. I'm like, I think I've seen her before, and then I look it up. I'm like, oh, she was in Sunny, huh? Okay, which is funny. That's the only thing I'd ever seen her in. And then Dick and Lockman, I've seen her in something. She was in Agents of Shield, but I never actually watched the show, so I don't know much about that. And then she was in Jurassic World franchise, but she's one of my favorites. I don't know. I think she's great in the show. Like
I mean,
that
man,
episode that follows her is just probably one of the best ones I've seen.
Do you guys have any other thoughts on Severance, Ben Stiller, Adam Scott, work-life balance?
can't wait for season 3. That's all I know. That's all I know.
I had something. Oh, yes, now I remember. So one thing I really enjoy about this show is Apple's marketing efforts towards it. They did a really cool thing there in Grand Central Terminal where they had them inside of a box working as their innies and doing it like while people were walking around and everything. But another really cool thing they did was the UUR, which is the book written by Jen's husband. Rickon, yeah, Devin's husband, Jen's the actress. And they actually released it. You can actually download it on Apple Books and read a few pages. And then there is, I can't remember the name of it, but there's another file you can download. And it's basically like, it's a series of emails between a reporter and somebody that worked within Lumon Industries where they like unveil a bunch of stuff. And it's got scans of handouts of stuff. It just, if you get the chance to read it, it's like 17 pages and a lot of images. But it's something really cool to check out because they really do care about this world and they put a lot of work into making it believably real, you know?
Yeah. I remember HBO Watchmen did something similar with like PDpedia, and they had all this like online extra material that supplements what you're watching. I think it's so rich when they do that with a show. It's really great. All right.
The other media is Severance, the Lexington Letter. It's on Apple Books. And then the UUR is also there. Just two things you should check out. And also, since I'm remembering it now, there is a really cool and very extensive scientific journal that's about 120 pages where they go over these topics. I tried to request it from my library, but they don't have a copy. But I managed to find a copy somewhere else.
Yeah, they should be able. Oh, okay.
But no, this is like research, actual like doctors that do like 13 different topics that cover the show. If you really enjoy the show, go check it out because they went into the work in regards to it, and it just blows your mind. I read about 2 entries, and it was just like a lot.
Wow.
Well, before we go, I want to say, Red, thank you for joining us, man.
Of course, thank y'all for having me. And I know y'all had to adjust your schedule a little bit to make this happen, so I appreciate it.
It was a privilege. It was a pleasure.
It was worth it.
The only thing, last thing I got to say is, please, for the love of God, don't make me wait 3 more years for season 3. I barely made it to 2025, to be honest. So, like, you got to speed it up. I want to be alive before the show comes out again.
Who knows? Who knows who will be alive soon? Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow if you enjoyed our discussion. What did you think of Severance? What's your story leading up to this? What do you think of the goats? Let us know in the comments below. And then you can find me on Blue Sky at Ben Red's Words.
I am John, and you can find me at John Movie Watch on Blue Sky. And Lizzie, choreography and merriment. We want it.
I just want the waffles, Lizzie. Waffles, please.
I just realized we didn't talk about that much. Man, there was a lot. We'll save that for a little extra or something because that was a great sequence. I'm Anthony Flagg. You can find me at Redova _ on both on Twitter and then just at Redova on Blue Sky.
Yes. And be sure to follow the CosmicCircus.com on Blue Sky and at My Cosmic Circus where you can find more reviews, articles, editorials, and opinions like the ones you just watched. Thanks, everyone. See you next time. And special thanks to our Patreons. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
And special thanks to our Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see even more videos and extended content, please subscribe at the link in the description.
Thank you.
One more thing, Brad. You're not supposed to cuss.
Oh, that's right. Whoops.